Hi and welcome back to Joe Talks Cars and welcome to another video. Welcome the Cayenne S to the channel. I've borrowed this car over the last few days and I've been living with it. It's a car I've been really interested in, the Porsche Cayenne, and specifically the V8 one. What's it like to live with? And especially now this one has been slightly modified. So it should come as no surprise that this isn't your standard Cayenne. As you can see, it's sitting a lot higher. Granted, I've put the suspension in its highest setting for this video and makes it look even more of a beast. But this is a Cayenne that's been tuned by a company called Rebel. You'll have seen in previous videos of mine, we've been out playing with them in the woods. And they said to me, would you like to take one to Goodwood? So on the way down to Goodwood, we took the Cayenne Turbo. An amazingly powerful car, big yellow version of this. We took that down to Goodwood, and at Goodwood we swapped around with the owner and we took the Cayenne S so that we could carry on our journey throughout the country, and we went over to Bath and had an amazing time, and getting some pictures of this in the Roman city of Bath certainly looked the part. But as you can see, this is no standard Cayenne. It's on a lift kit by Rebel. It's on these massive Falcon off-road tyres and Wolf Race alloys. It's got a really nice Nardo grey style wrap, which I think make the car look really cool. It's like a ghost. It's got a black roof, black mirrors, and they've even taken away the Porsche badge just to leave a black badge, which I think makes it look even more menacing, if that was even at all possible with a Cayenne. Now, I've had an amazing time driving this round. It's been a unique experience with lots of people staring at it, and you can totally see why. It's a very much in-your-face car. When the Cayenne launched, of course, it wasn't without its problems. People mocked it for how it looked. And I think over the years, especially this facelift version of the early Cayennes, I think they're starting to look pretty good. It's not the most attractive car in the world. It's definitely got some road presence, with the likes of the Pure Sangue and the Urus coming through. The Cayenne is where it all started, and it's what's made all of these cars, so it's a very important car in that respect. So as you can see, Rebel put these cars on a lift kit. They lift the body and they lift the suspension, but interestingly the air suspension still works. This car is able to raise and lower just like a normal Cayenne. Of course, it just naturally sits that little bit higher. It's on these unbelievably chunky Falcon off-road tyres, and having driven all the way back from Somerset in it, I can confidently say they're not even that loud. Where these come into their own is, of course, on the tough stuff. We have been off-roading, and you'll have seen previous videos of that. If you click the top of the screen now, I'll link you to that video, and we've been off-roading, not in this one, but in a couple of their other Cayennes on these tyres, and honestly, they are mind-blowingly good off-road. So the tyres, they make a huge difference to the car without compromising too much in the way it drives, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. Round the back, it's more or less business as usual in terms of a Cayenne. Obviously the wrap changes the way the car looks quite dramatically. This colour isn't available on a Cayenne, so it just makes it stand out even more. They've replaced Porsche with Rebel because, of course, this is a Rebel Cayenne, not your everyday Cayenne. And the best thing about this car is this exhaust. This car is fitted with a stainless steel custom-made exhaust, and it sounds absolutely fantastic. I'm a huge fan of the V8, as we all are, but this thing, going through a city with a V8 just burbling away, it's something else. So, jumping inside the Cayenne, of course, they haven't really touched the interior, as you can see. It's a fairly plain affair. But one thing I will say about this Cayenne, bearing in mind I think this model is from 2008, it's done around 80,000 miles and every single thing in it works. The aircon works, the seats are super comfortable and have really good adjustment. Lots and lots of choice. The aircon's really powerful, it's got a updated head unit. I think it's possibly not a genuine Porsche one, but again, that works really well. It's got all the different driving modes. So you've got comfort, you've got normal, you've got sport, all of that works. The ride height control, everything works in it. There's no squeaks, no rattles, nothing. Shows how well these cars were put together when they came out, and I think that is testament to Porsche. So when it comes to turning this into a Rebel Cayenne, I think that's probably a good place to start. Start off with a really well-made car, such as a Cayenne, make it something different. Now I think that's shown you just a little bit of the outside of this car, the things that make it different and the things that make it, well, a Porsche Cayenne. I'm going to now take it for a drive on the wonderful road I have here. I test all my cars up here, and it's Oliver's Mount Race Circuit in Scarborough. It's usually a really quiet road to go on. We'll be able to get lots of nice shots of the car going past, and I'll talk you more about what it's like to drive, what it's been like to live with, and crucially, whether I would recommend one. Right, so I would say this is the first drive of the Cayenne S. It's not. We've driven many miles across the country in it, all the way back from Goodwood in fact. Stopped off at the beautiful city of Bath, and if you haven't been there, it's somewhere you need to visit. It's absolutely breathtaking. Now, this car, being a 4.8 litre V8, the thing I want to get out there straight away is fuel economy. It's the first thing that people think of when they see these cars, it's the first thing you get asked. How thirsty is it on fuel? To answer that question as simply as possible, extremely. The car averaged around 15 miles per gallon on the way there, but that was in the turbo version. This being the naturally aspirated version, it did seem to do a little bit better. When I say a little bit better, I think it's around 20 mpg on average. So fuel economy out of the way. What's it like on the road? What's it like to drive this absolute behemoth of a car? Well, actually, it's really comfortable. It's just a nice, pleasant way to travel. Like I spoke about earlier, the off-road tyres, yeah, they add a bit of noise in there, but it's not excessive, and it certainly doesn't spoil it. Certainly doesn't make it any less comfortable to travel in. What you do feel is you do feel quite a bit of rolling resistance. I do feel like the car, sitting on these big, fat off-road tyres, it has hampered the performance slightly. But yeah, road noise, not really an issue, even with these chunky tyres on, which is a plus for Rebel. It's their signature. It's jacking it up and putting these tyres on it. Handling wise, again, I'm assuming this is down to the off-road tyres. It's a little bit bouncy in the bends. It's maybe not as sporty as the Cayenne was originally intended to be. I mean, this car is a big, massive, heavy car with a lumping great V8 in it. It was never going to be a performance car. It was never going to be a sports car. But yeah, it's not bad actually. It doesn't necessarily inspire that much confidence in the bends with it being such a big, bulky car with such a high ride height. But that's not what this is intended for. This is intended to be a serious off-roader, and we've done that. It's proof that it does work off-road, and it does work on-road. We drove all the way back from Goodwood. It's been absolutely fine apart from the fuel stops. So it does work as an off-roader, and it doesn't really affect the on-road capability of the car either. One thing I have noticed with it is the attention it gets. Now that is one thing that Rebel do mention on their website. It's one thing they talk about a lot, and it's these cars are maybe a good idea if you wanted to promote your business. You're trying to get out there, you're trying to make people see you. You don't get more in your face than a Rebel Cayenne, so you could brand this up. In fact, their yellow one is branded up with all their cafe details for the NY500, and it certainly gets the looks. On the motorway, we had countless cars slowing down, taking pictures, and yeah, it's a serious attention grabber. So it's not for the faint-hearted, it's not for someone who is afraid of having the picture taken while they're driving along, but yeah, it's been great fun to have it, and I've really liked bringing smiles to people's faces as we've driven past. It does make driving an event, and I think that's what's lacking in modern cars, it's what's lacking in electric cars. You don't necessarily feel very connected to the car, they have very little emotion, and this sort of does bring all that to the forefront because it's totally inappropriate, it's too big, it's too loud, it's just over the top, and that's what I love about it. The real big plus points from where I can tell from a Cayenne point of view is the build quality. Inside, exceptionally good, everything works, nothing rattles, everything just feels solid. This car's from 2008 and everything works, and it's a real joy to use. You can get the seat just in the right position, and there's, yeah, perfect seating position for anyone. These seats are beautiful. Maybe not as bucketed as I would like because my cars have got bucket seats and I really do enjoy that about them. But it's perfectly fine, and for what it is, it's brilliant. The space you get in a Cayenne, of course, is the selling point for me. I've got a small child, and going all the way down to Goodwood with her in this meant we could just chuck everything in the boot. It was fantastic for that. And yeah, it's just nice to have a big, impressive car. And it being a Porsche, it feels very Porsche, it feels very familiar. It's what I love about it. Maybe things that I don't necessarily like about this car is the gearbox. The gearbox is a Tiptronic gearbox. It's the same that's, allegedly it's the same that's in my Cayman. It's nothing like it really. For a start, it's got 6 speeds, so it's definitely a different box. But it doesn't respond the same way that mine does. Under heavy load, it's slow to respond. It does mash the gears together quite nicely so you don't feel them, but it doesn't make you feel very sporty. And for something that's called a Cayenne S, you'd think they'd have improved the gearbox timing somehow. Maybe just like a remap or something, I don't know, but the gearbox seems quite sluggish. Other things that I dislike about it, with it being the Cayenne S, it's got 360 horsepower. That seems like quite a lot of power, but when you factor in the weight of this car, it's not really enough. Coupled that with the MPG that's really poor, you've essentially got a really loud V8 muscle car that's not very fast. So you're paying for it in the fuel, but it doesn't really get a move on. So I had a very similar experience when I drove the SQ7. That is again a 4-litre V8 big powerful SUV car, and I just maybe think these cars are just not for me. That car was not very fast, not very economical, and it didn't really offer me anything. The thing that this offers is its off-road capability. A lot of people will want that, and it's undisputed this car is absolutely phenomenal off-road. The ground we covered in my previous video on these cars was just unbelievable. It was next level off-roading. Bearing in mind these cars could be driven on the road is quite staggering. So I do like the off-road capability. I'm not impressed by the performance in relation to how much fuel it uses. Maybe some people aren't bothered by that, but for me, I don't mind excessive fuel use, but I do like a performance to go with that. It's how I justify my car. It's really, really quick. So, my overall thoughts, my conclusion on the Cayenne. What do I think to it, and would I recommend you buy one? Well, it's my first experience with a Cayenne. It's been a really good one. We've had a good few days to enjoy it. We've taken it on motorways, we've taken it through muddy fields at Goodwood, we've driven it through a city. I've done everything with it. We've used it to transport my family around in. I've gone to work in it. All the usual stuff that you would do. And I have to say, it's performed really well actually. I'm not sure necessarily I would daily it, but I think for a tool to go off-roading and then drive home in, I think it's an exceptional choice, and I think Rebel are really onto something. So then, the Rebel Cayenne. What do I honestly think of it? Would I recommend that you buy one? Well, I can categorically say that if you're looking for a unique SUV to go actual off-roading in, but also take the kids to school, then I can highly recommend it. These cars aren't for sale yet, the parts aren't even available. There's a lot of work to do, but as soon as they are, I'll be the first to tell you that they're available. I think what Rebel are doing is something unique, something clever, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens to these when they finally get everything sorted, everything working perfectly, because it's undisputed how well this goes off-road, and I think it looks pretty cool as well. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already for plenty more videos like this one to come. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.